Whether you have an employment, criminal, family, corporate, or personal injury matter, legal issues can be puzzling. The lawyers at Devery, Smith & Frank make all the pieces fit together.
Welcome back to Real Estate 101. We're going to continue our discussion with Robert Adorian of Devery Smith Frank. We're going to talk a little bit about land transfer tax for first-time home buyers. Robert, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me back, Joe.
Okay, Robert, so what is land transfer tax?
Joe, a land transfer tax is the sales tax on the purchase of real estate, and like any sales tax, it's based on the price.
Okay, now, how is that calculated?
There's a formula that escalates as the price escalates. So for the first $55,000, it's $5 per thousand. Then up to $250,000, it's $10 per thousand. From $250,000 to $400,000, it's $15 per thousand, and over $400,000, it's $20 per thousand.
Okay, now, is there only one land transfer tax throughout Ontario, or does can the location change on the amount of what you pay?
Oh, the location certainly makes a difference, Joe. There is one land transfer tax for all of Ontario, but if you're buying in the city of Toronto, there is an additional land transfer tax called the Toronto Land Transfer Tax.
Okay. What are the incentives for first-time buyers?
The incentives are significant. For the Ontario Land Transfer Tax, the first $2,000 is eligible for a rebate, and for the Toronto tax, the first $3,775 is eligible for a rebate.
And this is only for first-time home buyers?
For first-time home buyers only, yes.
Okay, so how do they qualify, or what's the process?
Okay, in order to qualify, you must be a Canadian resident. You must occupy the property as your principal residence within 9 months after the closing date, and you must be a first-time buyer, which means you cannot have ever owned real estate anywhere in the world.
Okay, so does the buyer have to pay the tax at the time of closing and then apply for the rebate?
No. The way the program has been set up is that you will submit written documents with your closing documents stating your eligibility, and based on that, you don't actually have to pay the full amount. You pay the discounted amount at the time of closing, which is a real benefit for first-time buyers who are usually short of cash at the time of closing.
Right. Okay, so here's a question for you. Let's say there's two home buyers, and one of them is a first-time buyer and the other one is not. How is it calculated then?
Well, let's talk about people who are not married to each other.
Okay.
Okay. So two brothers are buying. One is a first-time buyer, the other one is not. The rebate is a portion. So if the one brother is buying 50% of the house and he is a first-time buyer, he gets 50% of the rebate. So that's 50% of the Ontario rebate, and if the property is in Toronto, 50% of the Toronto rebate as well.
Okay, Robert, so for today's final question, let's talk about married couples. Let's say two people are married. Does it change for them?
Yes, it does, Joe. So let's say that the husband has previously owned a property. Neither one of them will qualify for the land transfer tax rebate, as opposed to a couple living common law or just friends who are buying, where each one is assessed independently. For a married couple, if one has owned property, the other one doesn't qualify, with a few exceptions. The first one is this. If the husband owned a property but sold it before the marriage, then his wife will still qualify for half. Yeah, for half of the rebate. And another thing I should mention, there are people who have owned real estate, but let's just say they haven't really been full and true owners. A typical situation is parents are buying a house, but they don't qualify for the mortgage, so the bank says, if you put your son on the title with you, you'll qualify. But the son didn't contribute any down payment, and then when the son was taken off title a few years later, did not receive any funds.
Right.
In that situation, when the son subsequently buys a property, he does have to pay the land transfer tax at closing, but can make an application to the Ministry of Finance with all the proper documentation to establish that he owned it only to assist his parents in obtaining financing. And in that situation, he will receive the rebate subsequent to closing.
All right, Robert, good stuff. Thanks for coming on today's show. It was a good topic, something that all first-time home buyers need to know about. I'm looking forward to seeing you again next month.
Thanks for having me back, Joe.
So there you have it. Land transfer tax rebates for first-time home buyers. If you need the help of a top real estate lawyer, get in contact with Robert Adorian of Devery Smith Frank LLP. I'm your host, Joe Tercera. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.